So, anxiety is something that affects a lot of people. The stats vary, but it's a huge chunk of people that are affected by anxiety, depression, and other mental challenges, mental health challenges. Now, first and foremost, I am not a professional counselor. So if you are suffering with anxiety, depression, mental illness, or anything, please, there are plenty of places and people that you can talk to. If you don't have anyone within your inner circle that you trust or that you can talk to or that you feel comfortable with, there are heaps of organisations. Here in Australia, Beyond Blue is the organisation that you need to look up and go to. In other parts of the world, there will be places. If you search anxiety in your location, there will be organisations that can help you out. So I wanted that up right up front because you shouldn't be taking all of your mental health advice from a dude on YouTube. But that being said, I have had experiences and I wanted to share those with you just to let you know what's worked for me. Won't work for everyone, but it might give you some ideas and strategies that might actually help. So, anxiety is kind of related to two things. It's related to yourself and it's related to others. But a lot of people sort of put a lot of emphasis on the other people stuff. They think anxiety is driven by other people and what other people think, and not so much themselves. We're going to talk about both of these here in this one. Now, the self, it relates to music, but it also relates to other parts of life. I've talked about these things before, but the imposter syndrome, if you've never heard of this is where you are doing something and you're going along nicely, you're feeling good. So from a musical point, you're recording music, you think it's sounding good, you're playing it back, and then suddenly you get this overwhelming feeling that's like, who am I to write a song? Why should I think my music's any good? Like you have this, and if you've ever started a new job, you often feel that when you're starting a new job, you're like, oh, they're going to work, they're going to find out I'm a complete fraud, I'm an imposter, I don't know what I'm doing. It's usually not the case. It's usually a complete overreaction, but it definitely comes in, especially in music. The other thing that's very a self thing is perfectionism. So thinking that you have to do something, like the first time you do something, it has to be perfect. Now, we all know, or in the logical part of your brain, the non-emotional reactive part of your brain, that's not the case. When you start something new, when you learn to walk, you don't expect a kid to go, you put them on your feet and they walk. It's the same with anything, the same with music. You are going to grow. Your first song is very unlikely to be your best song. You need to rinse and repeat and make a bunch of songs to actually overcome that. But the big thing is caring what other people think. And if you think about like the public speaking analogy, this is what a lot of people think of. So that whole fear of public speaking is not so much about you fearing the act of getting up. You can probably do it yourself in front of no one, but it's the fear of what may happen and what other people may think. And this is a concept that I didn't coin this term, but I like to use it, and it's catastrophizing. So it's what's the worst thing that can happen? So for public speaking, the worst thing that can happen is the old thing of you standing up there, you have that dream that you're standing there and suddenly you're in your underwear and everyone's laughing and pointing at you. That doesn't actually usually happen. Or that you're going to completely freeze up and then you're going to faint on stage and then you're going to have a heart attack and be rushed to hospital. And it's like, these things simply aren't going to happen. But in our brains, we go that way. We cycle through it and we go, okay, this happens and then this happens and then this happens. What's the worst thing that can happen? And that's what we go to. Same sort of thing with an open mic night. You might think, I'm not going to play an open mic night because what will people think? Well, here's the harsh reality and the truth. Other people simply don't care about you as much as you think. Now, no, that sounds bad. Don't worry. Your inner circle do care about you. Your family and friends probably do care about you. But strangers on the internet, dudes drinking beer in a pub, dudettes drinking beer in a pub, anyone, they've got enough of their own stuff to deal with, right? They don't really have a whole much of care factor around you and exactly what you're doing. Now, there are a small percentage of people who may send hate your way, who attack you in an unprovoked way. But here's the thing. They are probably dealing with more significant issues than what you are. Because here's a statement that I like to say. Think about this. Caring, empathetic people simply don't make other people feel bad for no reason. I'll say it again. Caring, empathetic people simply don't try to make other people feel bad on the internet or in real life without being provoked, without provocation. It's just the facts. So think about that, and you do need to think about where these things are coming from. All right, that's all good, Pete, but what can I actually do about it? if I'm struggling and I'm creating music and anxiety is bringing me down and it's making it hard. Well, the thing with anxiety is it is not something that you like take. There's no magic bullet. You don't sort of have anxiety and then you get over anxiety and then suddenly you don't have it. It's something that you have coping mechanisms for. So I'll tell you a quick story and then I'll give you some coping mechanisms here. So my anxiety in the past was driven by a few things, and one of the weird ones was supermarkets. So I really didn't like going into supermarkets. I would get anxious. I felt trapped. A lot of my anxiety was around sort of claustrophobic enclosed situations. So that was really hard for me. And the other one was driving in the car. So you can imagine a trip to the shop was a great time. Woo, yeah, I really looked forward to that. So for me, what a lot of people will do is they'll say, oh, just suck it up and deal. Just use the sink or swim method. Just do it. That didn't work for me. 10 panic attacks later, I'm still struggling with this. But what works for me, and what one of the best strategies I find for life, but also for music, don't worry, we will circle back to music, is to actually do things a little bit at a time. I use this analogy. If you blow up a balloon, and parents will know this if you blow balloons for your children, if you just put as much air as you can into the balloon and you blow as hard as you can for a period of time, the balloon's going to pop. Like the resistance there is just going to go, pop. But if you blow into the balloon, you let it rest for a minute, you let a little air out, you blow it a little bit bigger, let a little air out, you blow it a little bit bigger, it's going to eventually become this larger thing. And I think of your circle of comfort, your comfort zone, as being like that. It starts little, and then as you grow it out, it goes out like this. So if you're sitting there at the moment going, I don't have the confidence to share my music, I don't have the confidence to do the things that I want to do in music, to play open mic nights, to release my music, that's cool. And you don't have to do all those things right now, but put plans in place. Start thinking of what steps you can take to take that next step to get yourself a little bit closer. So for me, with the supermarket analogy, it was I would go for a couple of things, and then I could go at quiet times where I could just go in and out and I wouldn't feel that. And as I kept doing this, I'm like, that actually, the world didn't end. I stopped catastrophizing because I was proving to the part of my brain that was doing this, the little lizard almonds in there that make you feel this way, your fight or flight mechanism, I was proving that the worst thing wasn't going to happen. Same with live streaming. Last week I had a live stream where my house alarm went off in the middle. I had a phone call from the security company. I had to go and disarm the alarm. That happens, but that's not the worst thing. No one cared. Like, people cared very little about these sort of things. But we overemphasize how much other people are going to care about these things. So what can you do with your music though? Share with a friend. Start by sharing with someone you trust. Then move on to a shared community of people you trust. Now, I recommend the Create, Record, Release group on Facebook because that's the group that I started, and that's specifically set up to be a positive, nurturing environment for people to share their first, second, third, 100th song and get positive but constructive feedback. We don't want this whole American Idol mum thing where everyone just tells you that you're great. That's not going to help you either. But you can start getting more constructive stuff. And then you can continue expanding out to more public forums and all of the rest of it. So that is my recommendation, is if you are struggling with anxiety, first of all, as we stipulated at the start, please seek professional help if you are struggling. That's the number one thing I want to get out there with this one. But if you are just sort of feeling a little bit of that anxiety kicking in and you're doing things with your music, also step away. The two things that have made my life a lot better have been exercise and music. And now I'm very lucky that I can throw the backpack on, put the earbuds in and go walking for a couple of hours. I've got a supportive family that allow me to do that. And they also support me to do things like this around my music. And those things actually help as long as you address them and tackle them in the right way. So hopefully that can help out. And remember that advice. Caring, empathetic people, in other words, people you should take notice of, simply don't try to bring other people down without being provoked. So if you're catastrophizing about the worst case scenario that a stranger on the internet is going to say that you suck, it simply doesn't matter.